This might just be the absolute best bang for the buck gaming CPU you could buy. And it's exclusive to our longtime friends and sponsors over at Micro Center. Meet the AMD Ryzen 5 5600X 3D. The 3D is important. This is a brand new CPU launching tomorrow, and essentially what you're getting here is the gaming performance of some of the absolute best CPUs on the market at a fraction of the price. Or at least, that's what the story goes. Let's actually see how this thing works. Let's play some games, fool! The secret sauce on why this is better for gaming has to do with the 3D V-cache built into the processor. Now, to understand what that does, let me give you a little bit of an analogy on how an actual computer works. So when it comes to gaming, we have to feed our CPU, but the problem is that our CPU is right here, and all our data is all the way over here in our SSD. So as you can see, we have an expert visualization, which is, this is data. Some people might call it Orbeez, I call it ones and zeros, except they're all zeros, but don't worry about that part. So when I'm playing a game, I've got to get my data from my SSD all the way down to my CPU. Well, the first step is I take it from here and I dump it into my RAM. Now the RAM is much closer to the CPU and significantly faster, but it's still very slow compared to the actual cache built in. So again, I'm going to take my data from here, I'm going to bring it over and load it into my cache. As you can see, the cache is very close to the CPU and I can dump that pretty quickly. The problem is that the cache on a normal CPU is quite small. So on the standard Ryzen 5 5600X, this is about 32 megabytes. Actually pretty big, all things considered, but nowhere near as big as this. So if I get rid of this, use that, and I upgrade to myself to the 3D V cache, you can see that I can now load my CPU up much faster. With my 3D V cache, what I can do is I can just load up all kinds of data from my RAM. Look how much of that is. That's so much data. And then I can fire up my CPU really quickly.
Okay.
So basically what this means is that now my CPU is fed with all kinds of data, 96 megabytes of cache built in, which means that while you may have Orbeez on your floor, you have more of them in your CPU than if you had to take them bit by bit. The idea here is that with 3D V cache, you have about triple the size of the cache, which means that while it won't speed up everything, and we'll get into some of the pros and cons a little bit later, but specifically for gaming, having this larger cache to work with compared to the smaller one on a standard chip means that certain games can see a significantly higher level of performance, and this is the first time that this kind of tech has been brought down to a Ryzen 5, specifically this 5600X 3D. Does that make sense? I hope so, because there's a lot of Orbeez on the floor that I'm now gonna have to clean up because of my analogy. So now I'm going to be building myself a gaming PC based around this 5600X 3D. Now, the real star of the show is actually going to be pairing it with the 6950 XT. This is AMD's last generation flagship GPU that launched at like $1,000. Thankfully, it's come down a lot in price. And while I don't think a lot of people are going to build this specific system, what I do want to find out is by throwing a very high-end GPU with 4K and super high frame rate gaming at it, can this CPU keep up? Because let's keep in mind, this only costs $230. Although right now, Micro Center have a bundle where in addition to the 5600X 3D, you can also get yourself an ASUS B550 Plus tough motherboard, as well as 16 gigs of G-Skill RAM for only $330. But because it is a Ryzen 5000 series processor, it still is fully compatible with AM4 motherboards. So obviously we have a brand new one here, but if you're maybe upgrading from a slightly older Ryzen system, assuming you have a BIOS that is compatible with this, which most somewhat newer boards will, you could theoretically get yourself a major boost to gaming performance without having to upgrade to a new motherboard, to have to pay a lot of extra money for like DDR5 and whatnot. This is essentially a drop-in upgrade, and of course, it's exclusive to Micro Center. So let's put the system together and see exactly how well it performs. Say hello to Big Red. Now this total system costs just under $1,600 from Micro Center. I'd say it actually looks pretty nice. So we've got it in the Height Y40 case, specifically in this red, which I think looks terrific. It's also of course paired with the Phantom Gaming version of the 6950 XT, which we have helpfully coded to be not RGB, just R, because Radeon. We're also rocking 32 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance RGB RAM, 1 terabyte Samsung 970 EVO Plus SSD, and we've also got a fully modular 850 watt power spec power supply. So when you put this all together, I'll fully admit, it's not a configuration that I think a lot of gamers would choose. I think typically when you get to this $1,500–$1,600 price point, you're gonna be running with a Core i7 or a Ryzen 7 or even like an i9 or a Ryzen 9 or something. But what I really want to know is this 5600X 3D powerful enough to properly feed our GPU when it comes to 4K and 1080p high frame rate? Let's test this system out with some games that are very sensitive to frame rate, which is typically where the CPU makes the biggest difference. So we're gonna start out with Apex, not only running at 1080p, but we're also gonna try it at 4K to see the difference. TSAA is fine, ultra. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why we can't run this on very, very high. So here we're basically capping out at 140 FPS. So here it seems pretty clear that we are running up against the 144 FPS cap that's running by default. So I actually want to try to see what we're getting in 4K, because that I think will be a lot more demanding. Oh my god, we're still 144 at 4K? Oh wait, no, we're dipping slightly below. I'm seeing like 138, 140. Oh wow, okay, actually, you know what? I didn't think I would need to do this. I actually need to go and fully uncap the frame rate in Steam. I will admit, I have never had to do this before. So I'm going to set it as max unlimited FPS. Trying to run unlimited FPS. All right, you know what? I'm actually kind of excited. To be fair, I'm playing right now on a 4K 120Hz monitor, so I can't see 4K at 200 FPS. Dude, this looks phenomenal in 4K and like everything like maxed out. Like the level of detail you get here with this map. Oh, that frame rate's coming up now. We're up to 180 FPS at 4K. Yo, and we're running on ultra settings. Let's turn it down to 1080p and let's see what happens to our frame rate, because this will be an even bigger test of what the CPU could do. 300 FPS, and in fact, is it capped at 300 FPS? I actually think that Apex is running up against a cap because it is pretty much stuck at 300 FPS. So we're gonna try CSGO. We'll start out 4K. I don't know anyone who plays CSGO at 4K, but science. All right, let's do, oh my God. Well, I immediately say, we're at 350, 370 FPS at 4K. My dude, that's a lot of frames. Like, obviously I'm gonna try 1080p, but I'm gonna switch my settings real quick to 1080p and laugh at how hilariously high my frame rate is. Wait, we're at 1080p. It's basically the same frame rate. We're still at 400 FPS. You know what we're running into right now? We're running into a pure CPU bottleneck, which makes sense at 400 FPS. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna see what it looks like at 400 FPS. How do you do, fellow 400 FPSers? Okay, we got this, fam, we got this. Nope. Okay, that's fine. You know what? I was there for team support. Anyway, apparently, okay. So guess what we learned here is that this game is playable at 400 FPS at 1080 or 4K because that's such a ridiculous number that we're completely CPU bound. So for Fortnite, I already know that this game will run well on this system. That's not a question. But what I want to see is how high we can push the frame rate in a more esports sort of context. So I'm gonna start out at 4K. I will switch to 1080p in a second. But what I've done is I've set the settings to be basically epic, but I've turned off the extra bells and whistles. So things like nanite, ray tracing, those are all off. I'm running just standard FXAA. I wanna see what we can get with a nice looking image without all the extra stuff. Because this game will look terrific if I turn everything on, but even with this 6950 XT, we will not be pushing like crazy frame rates. So I wanna try this, and then we will settle the resolution down. But I really wanna hit well above 100 FPS. Like I think that's really what I want right now. But yeah, 4K, we're 80, 90 FPS, which looks terrific, but let's try 1080p. So I'm gonna give you about 100 FPS in 1080p, which is interesting. So while every game is different, a good rule of thumb is that for lighter weight titles that are a little bit more esportsy in nature, where you really care about every frame per second, doing things like turning your resolution down will actually make a fairly big difference. Whereas when you crank it to like 4K and whatnot, you're putting a little bit more of the stress on your GPU instead of your CPU. So what we've seen here is solid performance in games that are really dependent on the FPS. But now actually let's go ahead and try some more AAA graphically demanding titles to get a little bit of a better picture of how the system performs, and importantly, how the 5600X 3D performs. So first of all, I'm gonna hop into Forza Horizon 5. So this is a game that I would say is not massively challenging to run, but when you crank it all up, especially at 4K, it looks really nice. So we'll try on FPS, motion blur's fine, VSync off, 4K unlocked, yada, yada, yada. I think this should be totally reasonable. So let's actually hop into a game and see what it does. Okay, so inside of Forza Horizon 5 on extreme settings at 4K, we're getting about 90 to 100 FPS, it looks like. 4K is just no problem here. I'm gonna hop into the settings. Let's see what happens when we pop it up to 1080p. So hopping down to 1080p, we've now jumped our frame rate up, actually by not like a huge amount, by about 180, 190 FPS. Next up, let's try Cyberpunk 2077. I'm running it both 1080 and 4K. I'm running it basically ultra settings, but without the extra bits and bobs. So I don't have any like Fidelity FX turned on, and I don't have any ray tracing. This system can handle it, but if I turn on all of that, honestly what it's gonna do is it's just gonna make this a pure GPU test. And while I love the 6950 XT, I know what this graphics card can do. I want to see more of what the CPU performance is actually going to be like. Whoa, wait a minute. Wow. So we're at about 45 FPS right now. Let's hop on the bike and give this a little bit of a stress test. Oh, wow. Okay, so that actually, that's actually not crushing it, if I'm being honest with you. So we're getting about 30 to 35 FPS, especially it's a little bit more demanding as I'm sort of riding around on the bike, but we're getting some severe frame drops here. Let me actually open up the settings here and let's try it 1080p. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on a second. Switching from 4K to 1080p, literally quadruple my frame rate. That's really interesting. So that's a really extreme scale. And to me, what it sounds like is that we are 100% GPU bound, right? Because, I mean, 4K is 4 times the pixels of 1080p, but I guess that just, to me, just means that we're entirely relying on the 6950 XT here, and the CPU, it's not really stressed all that much. That is wild. I had never seen Cyberpunk scale like that. That's crazy to see almost a perfect linear scale between resolution and frame rate, which really just does go to show that you can't just look at a couple of benchmarks and just decide that, oh, that's it, and that sort of decides the whole thing, because every game is different, and the way that the CPU actually interacts with these things, it's really, really interesting. But that, I will say, hands down, one of the most extreme graphics scaling I've ever seen. I want to be clear that this 3D V-Cache is not a gimmick. Now, is it going to be a magical be-all, end-all that's gonna, fix all performance issues? No, of course not. It's an additional cache built into your CPU, which is going to be helpful in certain situations. I think it's just worth considering that it's not going to give you a huge uplift in every game. Right? It is going to be game dependent, and a lot of games these days are not massively CPU bound, especially some of that sort of more AAA titles, the games that are super graphically demanding. Where you're going to see more of the benefit here are games that are going to be pushing high frame rates that you want to push even higher. The kind of games where you're going to be really caring about every frame per second. And that, I think, is where this really shines, because if I'm thinking about who should buy this 5600X 3D, it's going to be someone who either is going to be playing a lot of games that are very CPU dependent and you want to be pushing crazy frame rates to make sure that you're super competitive, or someone who is potentially on an older Ryzen based system and they want a CPU upgrade. I think this is really cool that Micro Center have this exclusive CPU, and I think for certain people this is going to be absolutely perfect. The 5600X 3D is a solid option, and of course it's exclusively available at your friendly local Micro Center, which of course I will have more information on that at the link in the description, as well as all the other parts I use for this build. And of course Micro Center is expanding, so not only is the Indianapolis store right around the corner, but 2 new stores will be coming soon. Charlotte as well as Miami, and you can still get your hands on a 128 gig flash drive by signing up at the link in the description. In addition, if you're a brand new customer, you can get yourself $25 off of any new CPU, including the one from the bundle, the one that you should probably grab. And it is back to school month at Micro Center, which means that they have tons of deals on mice, keyboard, Chromebooks, you name it. So let me know what you think about the 5600X 3D in the comments below, and until next time, I will see you at Micro Center.